Alright, welcome to part 2 of my Clone Wars review. I was originally going to do 5, 6, and 7 in one review. However, I don't really want to wait that long, and I did season 5 recently, and I want to do it while it's fresh in my head. Also, because we're doing one video, I can maybe spend a bit more time on each arc slash each episode. And yeah, I think I have some interesting things to say about this season. Um, I just finished it today, actually, so uh, yeah, so we'll get into that. The first episode is not an individual arc, but it comes off of like the Maul sort of um defeat at the end of the last one, where um Obi-Wan and Asajj kind of teamed up. And then we find Maul with a new plan with his brother, Savage Opress. And they're basically just like robbing like space stations and stuff. But then Maul like comes up with the idea to basically take over a band of pirates, and it's Hondo's band. And it's interrupted, however, by Obi-Wan Kenobi and Adi Gallia, who are they're basically pursuing Maul and his brother Savage Opress, and they basically fight for a bit. And unfortunately, Adi Gallia dies. She's actually one of my favorites. Um, you barely see her in the clone. I'm sorry, in the prequel trilogy, but you see her a few times. Um, in the Clone Wars, and I always enjoy her appearances. Give me 1 second. My chair is kind of a bit low here. Hold on. Where is my Okay, there. I was just trying to find the lever to increase the height on this chair. Anyway, so she dies, and then there's a very good fight scene where Maul like finally bests them, and he cuts off Savage's arm. It's a pretty amazing scene, and then they like get chased out by the pirates, and they get shot out of the sky, but they escape in an escape pod. And that's the end of the video. Sorry, end of the episode, and they kind of like it's a bit of a cliffhanger as to what happens to them, but that's in the back of our mind. Then we have this arc, which is the Onderon arc, where we are reintroduced to Lux Bonteri, who's a character I like, and he basically has a relationship with Ahsoka, and it's kind of like a hinted romance that's kind of like taboo. This arc I would say is good. It has like a lot of good things about it and some things I don't like. Oh yeah, about the Lux Bonteri Ahsoka romance, that definitely would have been explored more in other episodes if they didn't cancel it in season 6 when Disney bought the company, but that's sort of a different conversation we'll talk about when I review season 6. But yeah, like I was saying, this has some good moments and some bad moments. This is rare for Clone Wars, but it does have kind of like an annoying female character that I almost expect from like the post Disney acquisition Star Wars. Um, she's a quote unquote strong female character, and what I mean by that, I don't mean I don't like female characters that are strong. I mean I don't like the stereotypical annoying female characters that are strong. And essentially, there's this lady who's the sister of I'm having a brain fart. I know his name. He's from freaking Rogue One. What's his name? God. Saw Gerrera. Yeah, Stila is his sister, and Essentially, I have no problem with this being like a strong female leader character. However, they make a bunch of decisions that really turn me off from the character. And essentially, the main thing is they just constantly glaze her and how great she is, which is like a thing they do with a lot of female characters to like force the audience to accept them, essentially. And it never really works. However, the character does have a very good death scene that makes her character not bad, but she's not great either. And I would say the whole arc would work better if she was more likable. Anyway, the premise is like Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka train these rebels to fight the separatist aligned government and do it on their own, basically. And in my opinion, it's one episode too long. It's a bit too much. And like I said, the main part of this that's not like action is, or no, it still is action, but the main part of it that's more meaningful action is the death of Stila Guerrera, which I said is a very good scene. I just think it would work so much better if she was not, or she was more likable. So a good arc, but definitely something that like I will never go back and watch this episode if I'm doing a one-off. Like this upcoming arc, I have rewatched a few times. I really enjoy this one, and I think it's underrated too. So this one is the Gathering arc. Essentially, it's about a group of younglings who are going to the planet of Ilum, which is kind of like a holy planet for the Jedi. It's where the Kyber crystals are mined. Wait a minute. Is that where Starkiller Base was made? Oh, see, they ruin everything. Okay, this is not canon. We already know this, but of course they had to ruin it. Let's just go to like the real canon. This is Ilum. They didn't make that gay ass fake Death Star that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so they go to Ilum, which is like a holy planet where all the Kyber crystals are, or at least a lot of them. And basically, there's this cool intro scene or episode where Ahsoka and Yoda go out, and basically the Jedi have to do like their own trials in the cave and find their crystals. And what I like about this is it characterizes like all the younglings, especially the character of Pedro, which is this guy, pretty well. Like I really like how he's like an arrogant Jedi that kind of has some dark side traits, but ultimately like, you know, does the right thing in the end. Kind of like Anakin. I also liked her. I think her name was Ganudi, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it Katuni? Well, whoever it was, I liked that character. And I also liked the Wookiee because he's a very cute animal character. The other two were also good, but not as memorable for me. And like I said, it's a very good episode. And then basically while they're going back to Coruscant, their ship is hijacked by Hondo Onaka, who's looking to steal the Kyber crystals. And this is a darker Hondo who's like willing to kill kids to get their crystals if he has to for money. And then Ahsoka is captured at the end of this, but in the next episode, the younglings hatch a plan to save her. And there's also a really cool scene in this where Obi-Wan was supposed to come get them, but like his out of nowhere, like out of hyperspace, a huge armada comes out and foils that plan. Very cool. I like the music in that scene. It's very like peak Clone Wars aura. And then the last episode is great. It follows up on, I think, a season 1 or season 2 arc where Dooku was captured by Hondo. It's essentially the Separatists sweep into the space around Hondo's base, and Grievous and Dooku exact their revenge and tell Hondo, like, we're melting everything down, you're now our prisoner. And yeah, It's a great arc, and Ahsoka and the Jedi get away. The next arc I have very mixed feelings on. I think on a story level it's great. However, the characters like go out of their way to be unlikable and annoying. This guy is a huge mistake. He's just really pisses me off. He's very stupid and annoying. And then this droid character is like kind of funny, but it's like annoying overload. Like it should be like one annoying droid and like everyone else is normal. But anyway, it's a really good story. I have mixed feelings about the arc because of the characters, but essentially they get stranded on this void planet, and it turns out like the separatists are mining this explosive fuel, and they're going to do a basically like kamikaze strike on the Republic military conference, and they have to foil it. Okay, and the next two arcs deserve a huge amount of praise. Some of the finest, I would say, content you could get for Star Wars. You have the final Maul arc, which is just insane. Essentially, Maul teams up with the Death Watch, takes Mandalore, and then the final episode, Maul like tricks Kenobi into coming, and he kills Satine in front of him, and it follows up on their, you know, dormant romance that was from the episode Voyage of Temptation, and it's actually quite heartbreaking and very powerful. And one thing I've noticed recently, because I'm always finding out new stuff about like cinema, I've realized that music has arcs. Music develops in cinema. So you have the Satine song that had been playing ever since we knew her, and it was a more soft version. It's like dun dun na 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 na. I'm messing it up a bit. Oh, it's like dun na 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 na, something like that. I messed it up a bit, but it's a very nice, sad song, and in her death, it plays her song one last time, and it's very emotional and like drawn out. And to me, the song itself went on an arc, and it made her death so much more powerful because you have this song you had been hearing every time she was on the show, and then you hear it one last time, really dramatized, and it really like wraps her whole character in a bow. And it was just a fantastic and powerful, heartbreaking scene that did get some tears for me. And also great animation. Like I said, this really improved in seasons, over the seasons, but especially like season 5, I thought was way better than anything else. Now, this is probably my favorite arc. As great as this arc is, and it's probably like my second favorite, this arc in particular is kind of like a masterpiece. It's perfectly written, great animation, very sad, interesting, entertaining, everything, really. It's essentially a mystery where Ahsoka is framed for something she didn't do, the Jedi temple bombing. And throughout the whole arc, we get sort of a moment for Asajj Ventress to shine, and we get like a relatability factor for Asajj and Ahsoka being abandoned by the Jedi Order, as they basically, essentially what happens to the Jedi later in the war is they like lose a lot of their principles because of the politics. Like they're afraid to defy the Chancellor and the Senate, even when they know it's right. Like when Ahsoka's being accused, they don't really stand with her. They take a neutral point of view, which is like very difficult for Ahsoka. And essentially, We get the investigations and we get Ahsoka being framed, and it culminates in my favorite episode. This is just a masterpiece in every way: animation, emotion, suspense. We get the reveal of that Barriss Offee is the person that bombed the temple as like a protest against the Jedi's leading the war. It's kind of ironic. She's using violence to stop violence. How typical, though, of a lot of activists. And yeah, we get this trial scene and the final acquittal of Ahsoka, but then she refuses to join the Jedi, where she like says like they lost her trust and she can't really trust herself anymore. And she leaves, and I love her final word to Anakin. Like Anakin said, I know how it feels, like I sometimes want to walk away from the order too. And she says, I know, which to me is a reference to Padme. Like she knows about Padme, that he's struggling. Because in my opinion, I think it's clear that a lot of people do know about him and Padme. I think Obi-Wan does know. There are scenes in this where it's kind of clear he knows, but also just the fact in episode 3, like, he does, like, ask Padme, like, the baby is Anakin's, isn't it? And he doesn't, like, hesitate. Like, he almost certainly knows that they're in love, and obviously in episode 2, Anakin straight up told him. And then at the end of episode 2, like, Padme does kiss Anakin in front of Yoda. So it's kind of like a dirty little secret. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about season 5. Even like this one, that in my opinion is controversial, is still, it's still very good. It's just a little annoying. But yeah, that was maybe a bit of a shorter vid, and we'll get into season 6 when I'm finished. All right, Sussy Boy out.